Okay. Let's see if I can see me. Can I hear me? I think so. And let me just get a couple things here set up. Bear with me. In fact, here, listen to this. How's everybody doing? This is a fun song. I hope you enjoy it. Let me get over here. Sorry for that. Echo. Wonder if I'll get a copyright strike for that. Anything, really. That's a great song. I'd love to crank that up and just keep it going, actually. But, down to business. My wife just kind of got up and jumped out the door without telling me or giving me any warning, and she took the boys with her, so I was like, might as well do a stream. I've been meaning to do a stream for a few days now. It just hasn't been the right time. Okay, so how is everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, welcome. If you're here, this is Blindspot Corner, I believe episode 8 is what I titled it, and this is going to be a little bit, not that I'm ever organized, but a little bit less organized than normal. So I just wanted to talk about a couple things. Number one, what happened yesterday in the Capitol was wild. I mean, is there any other way to describe it? But what's happening today, and tragic, that apparently 4 people lost their lives. I did see the headlines, but I didn't actually see how they came up with that number. You know what? I have to fix something here. I want this mic closer to my face. See if that works. Check, check. Hey, you know what else I want to do that I'm not so good with yet is figuring out how the comments and things like that work. You know what? I'm not going to think about it right now. This is just me talking to myself, I suppose. You can always comment on my thread on Facebook, and I'll try to check out there to see if anybody's got any comments or questions or what have you. And what I want to talk about. I want to talk about yesterday. What happened at the Capitol, obviously the tragic things, but more specifically, the not tragic things that happened. It is crazy that 1 million people could descend on the Capitol like that. And along the way, very little damage is done. Nobody that I'm aware of was just randomly attacked. No burning cars, no breaking windows. They just walked where they were going, and when they got there, walked right in the front door. And there's a hilarious video. Actually, hang on a second. Here, check this out. If you haven't seen this yet, this is great. This is good stuff. There we go. Look. So I think that pretty much says it all about yesterday. I mean, they just walked in the front door. They just walked in the front door, and it's almost like it was a setup. I'm not saying it was a setup, but I'm saying it sure has that kind of stage production feel to it, doesn't it? And now everybody's seeing this horn guy everywhere. And so I've been kind of like looking into who's the horn guy? Where did the horn guy come from? And everybody's talking about, oh, he's a BLM anti-flip plant and all this kind of stuff. He's not. He's a cute, I mean, the world's so crazy, who knows? But this guy has been going on about some stuff that I have heard people talk about and isn't entirely unlike things that I have said previously and have written about for the last several months. And I would like to make the distinction between when I started posting again. There was a big hiatus in my Facebook life where I started originally, I think 2008 or something like that. I started a Facebook group called Everything You Ever Wanted to Know But Were Too Busy to Ask, and I used to post very regularly there. And that was all left stuff. I mean, everything I did was left. Everything I did was Zeitgeist Movement. Everything I did was Venus Project. And everything I wanted to talk about was in regards to technological unemployment and the fact that it is coming at us hard and fast. And, what do we do about it? What do we do about it? We have to plan for the future. And at that time, I hadn't met my wife. I didn't have kids. There was no plan for kids. I had no intention of having children. And met my wife, and things changed, and here we are several years later, and I had been quiet over a big portion of that time, with the exception of the lead up to the 2016 presidential race, because if you don't recognize that Hillary Clinton, there's something not right about Hillary Clinton, and just the way that the DNC seems to be operating, if you don't know that, that could be the point where people just go, oh, I can't listen to this anymore. This guy's crazy. And they'll just walk away. You won't listen. And that's fine. I get it. I get that people have been more or less pre-programmed to behave that way and react that way. And I don't blame anyone for doing it, because the fact is that if you didn't have the kind of background that I did, and have this kind of, again, I was coming at it from a very lefty, like pro WikiLeaks, I was Democracy Now! All the time is what I would listen to. I would listen to The Real News and RT and all those kind of stations that were very much lefty. And I think one of the things that really kind of made me kind of like snap out of what was going on was when they started accusing Donald Trump of being like this Russian agent, and that the Russians, the Russians somehow got Donald Trump elected. And it just, people were talking about it, and the media was speculating about it so much, and I was just like, I was watching RT. They didn't like Trump. They were insulting him. Abby Martin and her show Breaking the Set, which I think I've seen them all. I watched all of them, and she's no longer on the air with that show, but she's been doing a lot of other stuff, which has just been, again, there seems to be like this divide that happened, this snap that happened to people's ability to kind of reason, and it happened all around Donald Trump, and I'm not sure how it happened that way, but if I were to make a guess, I would say that it has to do with the fact that I had children, and I suddenly understood what it was like to have to be an adult, and Abby Martin still doesn't. And, like, look, not taking anything away, she's very smart. I absolutely love her. I dig her. Her whole thing is just beautiful. But it's funny the thing that happens to you when you go from being childless to having children. You have to grow up really quick, and you start prioritizing things that maybe weren't a priority before. So when I was very much into the technological unemployment stuff like that, and on the left, and posting things about lefty causes way before it was cool. Like, I mean, people used to think I was crazy for talking about central banking and everything that was going on with technological unemployment and where are we going to go, and who's funding these wars. And that used to be my thing all the time. Like I'm telling you, you want you want to see? Here, look, I'll show you. I'll show you. This is fun. Like I said, this is impromptu, and I'm just kind of doing it because the opportunity arose. So, number was, I don't know. Too busy to ask. Okay, so there you go. 2010. There you go. 2010, and this is what I wrote back then. Conspiracy theories are the stuff that dreamers are made of, or are they? I've become a bit of a postaholic in recent days due to my self-perceived increased awareness of the world around me. And even then, I just want to point out that, like, I'm not claiming to be an authority on anything here. And I really get frustrated by people who claim to be authorities, put themselves up in these positions where they have a lot of influence over people, and then just say wild, outlandish things definitively. And that's always a red flag for me. I'm starting to think that in some people's eyes I may become spamtastic. This page is so I don't intrude on anyone's updates about things they may consider important with things I believe to be genuinely important. And so that was my group, and there you go. I did just post some stuff recently. But it goes like the war in the Ukraine, InfoWars stuff. And that's another thing that's funny is that InfoWars stuff and Alex Jones was very much against the establishment way back when I got in. Like, I was introduced to him through the Zeitgeist movie. Like, the original Zeitgeist movie, there's a clip or 2 or 3 of Alex Jones talking about the military-industrial complex and just railing against Bush and 9/11 and all that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people who are my age, that's a defining moment in our lives, 9/11, and how we looked at it and conceptualized it, and then decided to either believe that what we had seen with our own eyes made sense, or there was something about the explanation that was being given to us that just didn't quite fit. It didn't fit. It didn't fit. Like, I don't know, two planes knocked down 3 buildings. Building 7, look it up. Look, it still doesn't make sense. But I don't talk about it anymore because it seems less relevant. But yeah, so there you go. Back in 2013, right about the time that my wife got pregnant, because our boy is 7 now, I stopped caring about that stuff. But, you know, the only thing I didn't do was stop listening to people making arguments and philosophical reasoning and just like reading books and kind of learning. For everything that I was challenged on, I would go and try to learn more about it. And so maybe that's what makes me a little bit different than other people. It's that if I would say something, I'm saying it and I'm not sure. And so I'm saying it to kind of have a conversation and bounce it off of other people who might have information that might fill in those gaps. And so when I didn't get the kind of information I was looking for, I went out seeking it myself. And so a big part of my job also was driving around, picking up checks at my old job. And so I would diligently download videos. I can tell you, I have, no joke, tens of thousands of YouTube videos on my hard drives here at home. I'm not exactly, it's my hobby. I went from being obsessed with music and collecting records and spinning records all the time and partying to just being obsessed with trying to understand things. Why? Because I knew that if I had children, I wanted the world to be the best possible world that it could be for them to grow up in. And I think that's I think that's a good thing. I don't see a problem with that. Anyway, this is a fear tactic wrapped up in an espionage sandwich with shredded privacy sauce. Anyway, yeah. So just for fun, you don't. There's Peter Joseph right there. And I'm writing excellent. This is November 16th, 2013, Inside the Zeitgeist Revolution. Exclusive interview with Peter Joseph. Now, if I listen to Peter Joseph these days, he might say that I've gone mad, but I would listen to him and say, well, no, he's gone mad. And the difference between him and me, I think, is that I actually went and kind of explored my convictions. I listened to the counter arguments. I said, hey, is there truth to what he's saying? I mean, I was reading the same books as him and trying to understand the same concepts as him, and I was very much saying the same things as him. And when it comes to technological unemployment, he's still saying that. Except that I'm pretty sure he's big time for a universal basic income, and I have reservations about a universal basic income, not because I don't think it would be ultimately a good thing. I do think it would be ultimately a good thing. And one of the things that I was talking about in the run up to this election was Andrew Yang, and the fact that Andrew Yang was the only guy that was talking about something that was actually relevant to today's day and age, and everybody else was just playing the same old politics, just the same old BS, right? But I've learned along my path what I have learned and what I have tried to the conversation I've tried to engage in with others in whatever capacity that I could. And it's come up against increasing pushback ever since Trump was elected. I always like to have these kind of conversations, but I can tell you that things changed in such a way after the 2016 election. It became impossible to have a conversation with people. Now there's a number of things that coalesce to make that happen. One of them being our now constant access, like cell phones, constant access to social media, constant access to these platforms like Facebook and Twitter, and the fact that these algorithms have gotten so much better at offering us what we actually want, that it's divided us in a way. And not in a way, like pretty severely, actually. So yeah, I was worried about nuclear power. I'm not so much worried about nuclear power anymore. It's made leaps and bounds, and it's so much more stable and safe. And I don't know if you saw it. There's this new battery that they were developing that I saw it, and I was like, wow, maybe this is actually some serious hope for the future, where they were using depleted cells from nuclear power to power a battery, because there's all this residual radiation left in there, and they were packing it into these, I think, like crystalline battery packs, and it sounds amazing. It sounds like the kind of thing that would literally change the world. We're talking a space battery for your car that like never runs out of power, and you put like a little battery in your computer, and you never have to plug it in again. And like the freedom that would come with this. It's one thing to have an energy crisis, as we're being told that we have, and it's another thing to be able to take energy and transport it and store it. And that's one of the biggest hurdles for power as it exists today, be it wind or solar. One of the biggest hurdles is the fact that you have to get it into the grid. It has to be used. It has to be stored if it's not used right away. And those are the real problems for engineers and people that are trying to figure out how to make a switch over to that stuff. The problem is not the fact that we can't make the devices capable of capturing that energy. It's storing it that is the problem. And so if you have this amazing battery that doesn't even need wind or solar or the grid, it literally powers itself. I mean, this is life-changing technology if they perfected it. And when I read it, like, I don't know, 6 months ago, it sure as hell sounded like they were pretty close. Anyway, this is me getting off on my jokes. Look, I was a total lefty, okay? I was a total lefty. I have my lefty chops. I'm not screwing with you. I'm telling you the truth. And I still also cared about finance. And so just looking into this, look, what is this? Look, the point is, if you don't believe that I cared about this stuff, what made me switch? Well, what made me switch was having kids. Because, and it's the reason that I don't necessarily approve of universal basic income either. Nope, nobody cares about me. Just sitting in my basement talking to myself again. It's the reason that I also think universal basic income is a problem, because People adapt. And I don't think there's ever been more proof of that than 2020. And what made me excited and scared about 2020 was it was definitely the year for introspection, for hindsight. It was definitely the year to look at the way that we were doing things and try to decide, are we going to keep doing this way that seems to be fraught with problems and issues, or are we going to find a new way to think about things? Now, I also knew that there was this very much establishment now and quasi-lefty push towards Agenda 21 and now Agenda 2030. Agenda 21 was kind of getting the ideas in place and getting everybody on board to do this thing, and Agenda 2030 is like the kind of actual implementation of the plan. And just so you know, it's the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. By 2030. Not we're going to do them at 2030. There's 193 countries, which is pretty much all the countries in the world, except for a few weird ones. And all of those countries have agreed, in writing, to implement the SDGs. I cannot say this enough. How did you think we were going to do that? How did you think we were going to get from 2020, where we don't need this plan? The plan was actually, if people understood it, would have been pretty unappealing to a lot of people. We didn't need it. And so how were we going to get there? And that was really the goal and the strategy for big think tanks and the academy and for schools. Now, whether or not they understood that that's what they were doing, that's what they were pushing for, the general conversations taking place inside of the academy and being taught to our children about this social justice. Social justice is a huge part of the Agenda 20 SDGs. Agenda 2030, the SDGs. A huge part. And we're going to go over it. I'm going to actually pull up the page and we're going to look at it. But first, I want to talk about a couple things. First of all, this is wacky. This dude, Horn Dude. If somebody knows if that, I don't think, that's definitely faked. That is, now that I'm looking at it, I remember that photo from The Simpsons, but no, he didn't have the tattoo or the wall tattoos on his arms. He may have had the hat. That's Janitor Willie or whatever. I don't know. I don't really watch YouTube very much, but this is the dude. He's got his own, he used to have a YouTube page, but now he's got a BitChute page. And he has been talking quite a lot. And should we listen to some of the stuff he says? Do you want to listen to some of the stuff? Let's do it. Let's listen to some of the stuff that he has to say. Because...
Hey, man, can I get your thoughts?
Sure, what?
What do you have to say to those people who already accepted Biden as president?
All I have to say to people that already accepted Biden as president is that you are choosing to be a victim of what is called neuro-linguistic programming. It is a MK Ultra psychological warfare technique where they combine frequencies that affect the brain with propaganda and trigger words to get people to be what is called compartmentalized into a propagandized perspective of reality that they control. It's mass mind control. That way they can gear the populations for warfare. It's based on MK Ultra stuff that we got from Operation Paperclip with the Nazis.
And who do you think the Clintons are in on it?
Okay, the Clintons are a part of the cabal. You see, the military-industrial complex is divided into two factions. One faction is known as the cabal. That's the Satanists and the communists, the fascists, okay? The other side is the alliance. Those are the patriots in our republic, the people that believe in the Constitution, believe in freedom, believe in God, okay? So these two warring factions have been going at it for quite some time. Hillary Clinton is...
Okay. Can I just say that while this guy sounds completely nuts, there are elements of things that he is saying that are actually legitimate. And I want to kind of point out that right now, while this guy appears to believe with all of his heart, unless he's a hell of an actor, he appears to believe with all his heart that that this stuff is true. Now, you can go on the internet and you can look for all kinds of things. So, perhaps the push or the reasoning for all this stuff is about cracking down on the free internet. We know that they want to crack down on the free internet. They've been basically telling us for a long time that having ideas outside of the mainstream is dangerous. And if ever since Pizzagate, and that guy went to Comet Pizza with his gun, he never hurt anybody, but he went to Comet Pizza with a gun, so that pretty much means that he might have intended to hurt somebody. But he said that he went there to save children's lives. Now, the danger is believing that there are people that engage in pedophile-like activities these days. At least is the messaging that we're being told, and people that believe things that aren't true. Although, it is pretty interesting that there is an awful lot of stuff that happens in the world that is not... I'm not sure where I want to go with this. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the world where it gets buried when there is some sort of pedophile activity happening. And I spent a good chunk of yesterday reading about such instances because I don't know if you, like me, had been turned on to this guy, Lynn Wood, who was basically making the claim again. This guy's a lawyer in the United States, and he's represented I think, Kyle Rittenhouse, the kid that shot that dude's arm off and killed another guy in provoked attack. he wasn't defending himself from a mob that was literally trying to kill him. No. He was out there just to shoot black people or something. I don't know. It's so silly when we take these ideas about people and we make them into these cartoon characters. And this is what you get. This is what you get when you turn people into cartoon characters. Don't be surprised when they become cartoon characters. Anyway, look, there's a lot of stuff out there that when very powerful people get involved abusing, well, they might not even say that they're abusing people. They might just play it off as, he was involved in prostitution, and his prostitute just happened to be like 16 or 17 or something like that. But there's also stuff that comes out that is really disturbing, and I'm not going that way today, but the fact that it exists and the media tries to tell us it doesn't exist, and when they do tell us about it, only they can tell us about it, and you're not allowed to actually go out there and look for that information yourself, because that's dangerous for you to do any kind of looking on the internet, the free and open internet, for information that might either prove or disprove something that something that disturbs a lot of people. I mean, can we just be honest about that? Being a parent too, even before then, the idea that there are people out there who would prey on children and just do awful things to children is one of the most repulsive kind of ideas that I think exists in society. And that's why you see somebody will post something on social media and it'll be like, oh, this pedophile went to jail and then they killed him, and people are like, yeah, get him all. It's like really vivid kind of hatred of this idea that somebody might prey upon an innocent child, and that is a righteous rage, because there is something just unquestionably sick about somebody that would take advantage of a child and take advantage of that innocence. And so that's why these people are also repulsed by some of the things that Joe Biden does, and some of the Hunter Biden and his laptop came out like right before the election, and there was some really weird pictures floating around, and I just for to put it out there. And this is total speculation, but they've been talking about deepfakes all the time. And, we need to do something about the deepfakes, and we need to have more censorship because deepfakes, like, who cares if somebody puts a fake person's face on somebody else and then they're getting it in a porn or something? Like, who does that really matter? Like, if you're Jennifer Aniston and your face ends up on some girl who's in a porn, do you like? Are you gonna be so concerned that happens, that like, oh my God, get it off the internet? It's they're gonna think it's really me. No, that's just, it's so ridiculous to even think about things like it's. But this whole idea of keeping people from thinking about what a deep fake might actually be a cover for is, I don't know. Like, what if some of these videos did come out, like this guy Linwood is talking about, and all of a sudden we find out that, and I'll just tell you what this guy talks about, this Yellowstone Wolf character. He's talking about pedophilia and all this kind of stuff, and he says, look up, what's the word? Frazzle drip or something. Look, I don't even know. It's so ridiculous. But so you go look it up, and apparently, like, there's this video of Uma Abedin and Hillary Clinton torturing. I mean, it's not even. It's not funny and it's not fun, but if that kind of thing came out, people would be. I don't think that they'd be able to handle it very well if something like that came out. And yet stuff like that does come out. We know that Anthony Weiner was, sending pictures of his junk to like an underage girl. And we know that, Bill Clinton, the man, was sexually assaulting a girl